The jungle had swallowed them whole. Lieutenant Marcus Chen pressed his back against the moss-covered rock, his breathing shallow as blood seeped through his tactical vest. 3 of his teammates were down, their labored breaths mixing with the sounds of the river rushing behind them. The enemy had them surrounded, invisible phantoms in the dense foliage, their bullets chipping away at their cover with methodical precision. Marcus had led SEAL operations in 12 countries, survived situations that would break lesser men. But this felt different. This felt final. "We're done," whispered Petty Officer Rodriguez beside him, his voice barely audible over the gunfire. It wasn't defeat in his tone, but acceptance. The kind that comes when a warrior has made peace with his fate. Marcus wanted to argue, wanted to find some tactical miracle that would save his team. But the math was brutal and honest. 6 rounds left. No extraction possible. No reinforcements coming. The communication array had been destroyed in the first volley of the ambush. But what happened next would change everything Marcus thought he knew about survival, about heroism, and about the mysterious forces that sometimes intervene when all hope seems lost. If you've ever wondered what true courage looks like, stay with this story until the very end. Then the gunfire stopped, not gradually, but instantly, as if someone had flipped a switch. The jungle held its breath. Marcus felt his pulse hammering in his temples, every instinct screaming that this was worse than the bullets. The silence before the final assault. He glanced at Rodriguez, whose eyes reflected the same dread. They had maybe seconds before the enemy moved in to finish what they'd started. That's when they heard it. A single splash in the river behind them, so subtle it could have been a fish breaking the surface. Marcus didn't turn around. Every fiber of his training told him to keep his weapon trained on the threat ahead. But then came another sound, one that made his blood run cold, the wet scrape of something being dragged across stone. A figure emerged from the water like a specter rising from the underworld. Water cascaded off tactical gear that seemed to absorb the dappled jungle light. The woman moved with a fluid grace that seemed impossible for someone who'd just pulled herself from a river in full combat loadout. Her hair was plastered to her skull, and in her hands was a rifle that looked like it had been custom-built in some clandestine workshop. Longer barrel, modified scope, grip worn smooth from countless missions. She didn't speak, didn't acknowledge the stunned SEALs watching her. She simply moved past them with the confidence of someone who knew exactly what needed to be done, positioning herself at an angle that gave her a clear view of the dense foliage. Where the enemy waited, her movements were economical, precise, the muscle memory of someone who'd made this calculation 1,000 times before. Marcus watched as she settled into position, her breathing slowing to almost nothing. He'd seen elite snipers work before, but this was different. There was something almost supernatural about her stillness, the way she seemed to merge with the environment around her. Then she fired. The suppressed round was nearly silent, but somewhere in the jungle, Marcus heard the distinct thud of a body hitting earth. She worked methodically, each shot placed with surgical precision. 3 rounds, 3 kills, each separated by no more than 15 seconds. The enemy, whoever they were, began to panic. Marcus could hear them shouting in a language he didn't recognize, their voices rising in confusion and fear. They'd had the SEALs cornered, victory assured. And now their own hunters were being hunted by a ghost they couldn't see. The woman adjusted her position slightly, moving to track new targets. For more shots, for more bodies. The enemy broke. Marcus heard them retreating through the jungle, their footsteps crashing through undergrowth in their desperate flight. In less than 3 minutes, she had transformed certain death into improbable salvation. She finally turned to face them, and Marcus found himself looking into eyes that held depths of experience he couldn't fathom. She was younger than he'd expected, maybe early 30s, but those eyes belonged to someone who'd seen lifetimes of conflict. There was a scar along her jawline, faded but unmistakable, and her hands never stopped moving, checking her weapon, scanning the perimeter, always alert. Now, pause for just a moment and think about this. How many times in your own life have you felt trapped, surrounded by impossible circumstances, ready to give up? Remember that feeling as we continue, because what happens next proves that sometimes our darkest moments are just before an unexpected breakthrough. Call sign Echo 7, she said, her voice rough from disuse. I've been tracking those mercenaries for 3 days. You walked right into their kill zone. It wasn't an accusation, just a statement of fact. Rodriguez managed a weak laugh. You were in that river the whole time? She nodded. Rebreather waited for them to commit to the ambush. They always do. They get excited, lose discipline. She moved to the wounded SEALs, her hands now gentle as she assessed their injuries with the practiced efficiency of a combat medic. You live, all of you, but we need to move. They'll regroup. As she helped stabilize his wounded teammates, Marcus watched her work with growing wonder. She asked no questions about who they were or what their mission entailed. She simply saw people who needed help and provided it, the same way she'd provided precision fire when they needed it most. It was the purest form of service, stripped of ego or expectation of reward. Later, after she guided them to a secure extraction point and disappeared back into the jungle before the helicopters arrived, Marcus would learn fragments of her story from intelligence reports. A former operator from a classified unit, dishonorably discharged after refusing an illegal order. Now she wandered the world's conflict zones, a guardian angel for those who needed one, seeking redemption for ghosts only she could see. He never learned her real name, but he understood something profound in those jungle shadows, that sometimes salvation comes from the most unexpected places, delivered by those who've walked through their own darkness and chosen to become light for others. She had transformed their ending into a beginning, not for glory or recognition, but because when faced with the choice between walking away and stepping forward, she couldn't be anyone other than who she was. A protector, a warrior, a ghost who haunted the living to save them from becoming ghosts themselves. The river flowed on, keeping its secrets, as it always had and always would. Marcus never forgot that day, and neither should we. Because somewhere right now, someone is facing their own impossible situation, feeling like all hope is lost. And somewhere else, someone who has walked through fire and come out stronger is preparing to be the unexpected answer to someone's desperate prayer. We all have the power to be that person, to rise from our own rivers of struggle and become the light in someone else's darkness. Maybe you're the one who needs saving today, Or maybe you're the one meant to save someone else. Either way, this story is a reminder that it's never truly over until we decide to stop fighting. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it today. Let them know that even in their darkest hour, hope can emerge from the most unexpected places. And if this story touched your heart, take a moment to reflect on how you can be someone's unexpected hero. Sometimes the smallest act of courage, the simplest gesture of kindness, can turn someone's ending into a new beginning. The question is, will you answer that call?